My name is Greg Story. I am the president of Delegate Training Japan. And we've been around for a long time. In fact, many of you probably would recognize the face of Delegate perhaps. He started the company in 1912 on 125th Street in Harlem, in New York. And now, in 91 countries around the world, teaching more than 30 languages. We've been running the company. It's actually celebrated the 100th anniversary 2 years ago, so we're now at 102 years, and 51 years in Japan. On the 8th of January 1963, we had the first class. It was all in English. They flew in one of the vice presidents, Hugh Bigelow, from the New York office to run that class, and here we are 51 years later. And there's some reasons why that works. Why is it around the world, and why has it lasted so long? The human dimension, sadly, doesn't change much over time. You know, when you read Dale Carnegie's book, and by the way, I have some books to give away today. We'll do a little bit of a draw later, grab your machine and do a draw. And you'll note when you read the books that the issues that he was talking about, which were relevant in 1912 about how to get on with people, well, guess what? They're the same issues today, has not changed. And there's universality around those principles. It's across cultures, across languages. And the reason it's lasted for such a long time is because the company has to keep reinventing itself. And as we deal with clients and we deal with problems that you have, we update what we're doing. So we've grown as business has grown through many, many, many decades. And that's why we're going to switch gears and talk about delegation. So, tell me, how are we going on the delegation? Who thinks they're delegating extremely well already? One person, great. I've met your husband. He gets delegated to, I hope. That's great, thank you.
That's why he's here.
You give it right to him, that's the idea. So, what are some of the issues we come up with delegation? What are some of the problems we face trying to delegate? Rob, you've come a long way in your delegation terms. What has been the struggles with delegation?
It would be quicker if I did it myself.
That's always a struggle, isn't it? Yeah. What are some other reasons we struggle a bit with delegation? How about yourself? What do you think?
Skill set.
Skill set? Okay, yes. Yes. Whose skill set?
People.
Yours and the person you're delegating to, right? So we have a bit of a question mark about their capacity to deliver it, perhaps. Yeah? How about you, Cameron? What are some things that come up for you?
Relinquishing control over something to somebody else.
You're trusting someone else with something fairly keen and to your heart, and maybe it has a big impact on your career, and then you lose control of it, so you're trusting someone else with your future. Yes, well, that's right. So these are some things we're going to address today. How to delegate the responsibility task to develop and train other people, because we choose to do it ourselves because we don't want to spend the time developing the others to make them able to do it. So that's the first problem. And the problem of the trust or the problem of skill set is maybe in the way we unfold the delegation. Maybe we need to give a bit more clarity around how you want this person to do the task. So that delegation meeting where you're handing that off is very, very critical. And then, well, we want to have some standards, right? We want to make sure that it's done in the way we want it to be done. So we need some accountability, some clear standards for that person, and we need to follow up to make sure that it actually does happen. So if we go to your manuals on your chairs there, if you go to the first page, it's got a little evaluation quiz. You just open up your manuals. Just give yourself a little time there. It's page 1. A little quick quiz. If you wouldn't mind, just take a few moments. It takes very, very little amount of time to do this delegation quiz. Just whip through that and see how you score on delegation. I can hear a lot of laughing going on here. That's always a good sign. We do this little drill to bring out some self-awareness about some of the aspects of delegation, and it gives you a good chance to reflect on what you're doing and why you're doing it today. And then we'll get some comments from you on some of the answers that you have here. There? How about number 10? How did that come across? You know, do you find yourself involved in projects you thought you'd given to someone else? So you'd actually handed it off, but then you find you're actually back into it. Do any people have that problem? Yeah, we think we've given it away, but it's like a boomerang, it comes back. We're going to deal with that. We're going to deal with that boomerang problem a little bit later. And how about number 5? We actually find ourselves spread pretty thin. So we're actually trying to juggle a lot of different things at the same time. And often that's at the sacrifice of what we want to do, around things we're best at. So who has that problem? Who has a lot of projects on their desk at the moment? Yeah. By the way, those people who've got a lot of projects, do you find you keep adding projects to it all the time, so that it just keeps going up like that? Do you keep a record of the projects you're working on, or you just sort of got them in your mind? Yeah, I found that actually it was scary. It was very scary. When I actually sat down, I wrote down all the projects actually I was working on. It was a phenomenal list. I was like, oh my God, am I doing all these things? Because you're sort of doing them and not thinking about adding and completing. And it actually adds up to a lot of different things. So if we think about with delegation, there are some things that work better than others. Doing it yourself. Well, doing it yourself, yes, you can do it yourself. But am I doing the most important thing with my time at this moment? That is a very good question. Am I doing the most important thing I should be doing at this moment? And often we'll find we're not. And there are things that only you can do. And there are things that only you should do. But every time we find ourselves doing things we should be delegating, we're stealing from ourselves, in a way, our precious time, our precious concentration, and our capacity to tap into high-value work. Now, the second one here is dumping. Now, this is the classic delegation methodology for bosses, right? I remember I joined a company, and the boss at that time had these very thick manila folders, 2 of them, height-wise, about that high. And he just came up to my desk and he dumped them on my desk, literally dumped them on my desk, and said, take care of that. I walked away. And we find ourselves doing that. We're looking around, who's in the office? Who's not on the phone? Right, boom, got them. You can do this for me. So we just come along with no explanation, no involvement with them, and just giving them the task and probably very little guidance. And then, actually, dropping is even worse, because what happens there is we don't follow up. So where are we with this project? And the person who's supposed to be doing it doesn't do it, so they've dropped it. Or, what's also more common is, it boomerangs back, and then we've got it again, but we're extremely busy, and we're so busy we forget. And then we drop it. So one of us drops it, right? So it gets nowhere. Then, distributing. This is not as good as delegation, but it's better. So you're actually taking tasks, breaking them down, and giving them to a number of people to complete. Because guaranteed, the person who's receiving the delegation, unless you have the right conversation first, will always think, hey, I'm already up to here in work. I don't need any more work, and I don't need your work, is what they're thinking. Right? So if we have a task and we distribute it, it takes some of the workload off one person and thins it out across other people. Well, that's okay. It's better than dumping it or dropping it. And then delegating itself is good so that we have a proper conversation, proper responsibilities, proper standards, proper time frames, follow-up. Whole process is done, they're taking care of it. But the ideal, if we can get to it, is this, which is deputization. So you are now me. I have stepped away from this project. You own the project. You will complete the project. You will be accountable for the project. So I am now freed up to go and do other things. And the idea is to get from this side to that side. And so we're going to look at a few things on how we can actually achieve that. And one of them is, there's a process for this. Very, very simple process. Now you notice that the first 2 are a little bit interchangeable. It could be select the person, okay, most suitable person for the task, or you could identify the need. And that might be, now, yes, I could do this project, but I'm the leader. What's my job? My job is to build people and manage processes. That's my job. Two things. Build people, manage process. So if I do it, that's fine. I'm managing the process, but I'm not building the people. So sometimes delegation is done because we want to help develop our team, help them in their career development. So we might sometimes think about that. We might actually not have a necessary need that it be delegated, but we may choose to delegate it to help develop another person in their career. And then selecting the person, of course, this is right person, right fit. In fact, Jim Collins, he was talking about actually hiring people, but the analogy is nice, you know. First of all, you get on the right bus and you get into the right seat, you know, with the person you're hiring. So get them on the right bus and in the right seat. It's a bit like that with delegation. Make sure we got the right project for that person and get them doing it. So that's something they can develop their skills with. Then planning the delegation. Now, planning the delegation is, okay, what do I expect to happen? When do I expect it to happen by? So you have a framework, the steps, follow-up, milestones, standards, accountability. What do I want to happen in this delegation? That's easy. Then we hold the delegation meeting. Now, this is very critical, very, very critical part of the whole equation, what happens there. How do you think we should hold a delegation meeting now? So have a thought about that, have a little discussion, let's get some ideas. Where you go? So, this client in the front here, what ideas did you come up with when you run a delegation meeting? What do you do?
We talked about, if I may, yes, we should talk about the needs and steps to achieve goals and setting out clear plans.
Okay, needs, steps, and clear plans. Very good. How about the pair over here? What did you come up with? Okay.
So I think one key factor that Jeff and I discussed is that to provide the members that are being delegated to some basic understanding of a contribution to the success of the whole.
Their contribution to the success of the whole?
Of the success.
So the delegatee needs to understand their contribution to the success of the project.
Right, for the purpose of motivation.
Yes.
And that translates to the successful deliverables.
Okay, very good. How about you, Cameron? Guys, how'd you go?
So, I mean, I was listening.
You were listening! Fantastic. Let's find out how good a listener you are.
In a good way. I mean, it was about almost like negotiating a contract, what you're expecting them to deliver, and then what they need from you, what support they need from you, so then making sure that's very clear.
So you're getting a lot of clarity around what your expectations as a delegator are, and what you expect from the delegatee, and make sure that they're clear. Understanding of what is expected, yeah?
But the opposite also is true, that their expectations of you, of what they need from you.
Yeah, to make sure that they understand how much of your time or the resources they'll get access to, yeah. How about over here, just behind you?
We talked about, actually it's kind of related to your previous topic, but setting up the environment, you know, having the story ready.
Having some context, the why. Yeah, that's interesting, isn't it? Often we forget the why, don't we? We are very busy people and we got lots on and no time, and so we give them the what. We might come up with some how, but we may completely neglect the why. So good point. Yeah, what else did you talk about?
We also talked about, so it's more, we were talking about, sometimes it's like negotiating with children and delegating to children. You know, you have your goal, but you also have to be able to offer something to them. You know, a piece of candy, but something, you know.
Some reward, right? Yeah. It's like that old joke, you know, if I'm talking to Robert and I say, Robert, assuming Robert works for me, I say, Robert, you come in early. Work really hard, stay late, are diligent and committed and loyal, really take on some big projects, I'm going to get a big bonus. So the what's in it for Robert disappears and the what's in it for me is major, right? So Robert's motivation is about here. And that's right. If we don't sell the motivation to do the project, then we're going to get compliance, maybe, or we might get dropping, as we saw before. How about now a triad, previously a pair? How'd you go?
We were talking about, similar things, motivation, trying to give some context, having the overall goal in everyone's mind before we start to...
Very clear picture of where we're going to go with this, the objectives.
Yeah.
Yep.
The only other two things we can add are given a time expectation, otherwise it could just go on.
Could go on forever. So very clear milestones around points of achievement in the delegation process. Thank you. Jim, how about your pair? How'd you guys go?
Who, what, where, when, why, how. Who, which people are going to be doing what, tasks, where it's expected to be done, when in terms of expected timelines, deliverables, why, what it is in it for them, and how it fits within the framework of the entire enterprise or the environment. And then how is more a matter of what resources are available, rather than telling them how to do the tasks. It's here's what you can use to help achieve your outcome.
Yeah. Okay. And I'll come back to you guys in the middle of it. Have it on the right-hand side of the back. What did you come up with? It's addition to what we've already heard.
Yeah, and in addition, a lot of things that we've talked about have already been said, but I guess to add, I think at first, especially in just one own personal experiences, whenever I have planning to have this delegation or whatever you may want to call it, I always try to identify if it's going to be a simple task or if it's going to be really complex. Because if it's simple, I mean, you can just identify someone and just tell them what to do. If it's complex, then obviously you're going to have to choose your team.
So that might be, as you talked before, about distribution across complex range of skills required. Maybe specialist people form a team, are delegated to a team, so they take on different tasks based on their capacity. Yeah. And if it's simple, it might be just one person. Yeah.
And then also, I mean, just touching on the why, I think you also have to prepare yourself for pushback on the why. And also, I think, drawing on my sports experiences, if the team's not, bought in or invested, the product probably isn't going to be as best as it could be.
So we'll talk about pushback, because pushback comes in different forms, actually. We'll talk about that in a minute. How about the last pair in the back here? Did you have any additional points?
Yeah, almost were covered, and we talked about how we're going to do it.
How we will run it.
Yeah, for example, it's going to be run by face-to-face, by email, or by some,
Could be someone in a different country. Matrix organizations have a lot of that.
Yeah.
Multiple project team members across the globe. There's going to be email, there's going to be able to get on the phone, yes, face-to-face. It's a very good point. And your plan would change, wouldn't it? If you had a face-to-face opportunity as opposed to an email opportunity, as opposed to a phone opportunity, it would completely scale differently. And often in matrix organizations, we're doing those things. These are some of the things that we found work for effective delegations. And you've picked up a lot of these. And I think the key one there is the receiver sees it as a step forward. It's the point that you raised before about the candy and about the motivation. Now, often people think, I'm not in sales. But actually, we're all in sales. If we're selling people on ideas or suggestions, we're actually selling in sales and selling them on that. And same here. We need to sell that person on this mode, this particular task or this delegated task. What's in it for them? But often as the boss, what's in it for me? I'm very busy, I can't do it, I need you to do it, here it is. But if we have that sort of conversation, it's all about me, and they go deaf. And then we get a lot of pushback, or we get dropping. So that's a very critical one. And then we talk about this, expected results. Very clear, what are the results and the standard we're looking for too. And then matching skills and abilities, and sometimes it might be a stretch, it might be a little bit of a challenge for them, because that's part of their development. And then the standards, we talked about that, process equitable, as someone said, it's two-way street here. Okay, it's not just I'm giving the responsibility, it's also I'm giving you the resources. And that might be my time and advice. And then authority, so you don't have to have, leader on the lapel to be a leader. You can lead without authority, and you need to give them the authority perhaps, or they can lead without authority if they've got to get other people involved. that could again be part of their development process where we're building people and managing process. Rules are good. Clarity at the beginning. You know, we make that clear up front, we have less trouble at the end. And then help is available. This is like the dumping, right? Here's the two big, thick manila folders. Whoop! Boss disappearing out of the doorway. No help. But we tell them, I'm not going to buy it back, but I'm here to help. So on that, there's a couple of things that come up. I'll bring them all up actually. And this one is the boomerang, you know, buy it back. Now, Japan's an interesting country. In many companies' cases, we cannot easily fire people compared to other societies. So, for a lot of workers, there's not a lot of downside to not being compliant with what the boss wants. And so, you know, people are pretty smart. Some of our staff work out, you know what? If I do a pretty average sort of job at the beginning, the boss is going to come along and go, give that back to me. I can do it faster, I'll do it better. And I'll get them to take it off me. So I'll just purposely, you know, sort of make a bit of a mess of it at the beginning. Not too much that I get fired, but enough to convince the boss that I shouldn't be having this. So it's like, thank you, that's out of my life. So don't ever neglect that people are very clever. Don't buy it back. That's the point there. They bring it back to you, you push it right back to them and leave the accountability with them. Or put it in limbo. They come back to you for a decision. Well, boss, what should we do about this? And you're already up to here with decision making, a lot's on your plate, and you go, I'll get to that. Oh, thank you. Fatal word, right? Thank you. You put it down, and then with the other pile of stuff, it gets lost, you drop it. Give them a decision straight away, or give them the power to make the decision. Right? But don't buy it back. Don't let it be going in limbo. And then accountability. Make sure the accountability stays with them. So, how can we use these things, do you think, in our delegation process? We're going to try. We're going to actually pick a delegatable project. So I'd like you to think of something you could delegate. It could be simple, probably simple is easy in the time we've got. And with your partners, we're going to actually go into a delegation too. We're going to be looking and trying to get into pairs here. And you're going to do that delegation meeting. And your partner is going to be the delegatee, and you're going to be the delegator. So I'm going to give you a couple of moments to think about a real project, a real piece of work, and the person you're going to be working with is going to play the role of the receiver of the task. And your job is to talk about all these things we had. I'll bring them back up. And in fact, you know what? You're a tricky delegatee because you're going to try and push back on it. Okay, you're going to try and push back on it a bit, so we're going to deal with that too as a real case situation. So we talked before, I'll take it up here, sorry, I'll go back here. All right, there are some things we need to think about. So we'll just take a couple of minutes first, think of a project, start thinking about that delegation discussion, what might some milestones be, what some standards might be, some of the things you've talked about, but to make it real. Not a might happen, if something's coming up, that's good. If it's something you've already done, do a replay and see how it might have gone. Anyone have any questions? We all good for that? Okay, take a couple of moments, get in your mind, then we'll get into pairs, and away we go. So we want the delegatee to give some feedback to us on the delegator, the person giving the delegation, what they did that was good. And if they were to do this again right now, how could they do that delegation meeting better? We all good? Decide who's going to go first, decide, and then go. Start. What was he doing that was good?
Yeah, very clear, steps and how
Clear?
Yeah,
Clarity? Yep.
clarity, and a kind of performance measures.
Performance measures. Okay, great.
Great.
How about here? What was she doing that was good?
Benefits? What?
She was selling the delegation to you
selling
with
it.
benefits? It was convincing? Yeah? How about yourself?
Context, timing.
He gave you context. He gave you background, so you felt the why was relevant.
At the end, I couldn't connect the dots.
In the end, you couldn't connect the dots. Okay.
He started off with selling why.
Start off with selling the
and
why.
then the
All
timing,
right.
but
Yeah.
we came back to that.
Okay. For the others here who haven't raised their hands yet, what could your partner have done better? Say, in the back, who's the delegate here? Jim, you're the delegate. What could he have done better?
I think Derek was very good at being very positive throughout.
So what did you do, sorry?
Derek was very good about being positive throughout the conversation.
Okay, so very positive, yes. And what could he have done better?
That I thought the "what's in it for me" or "this is why" pitch, it came at the end.
Uh-huh.
It's good for a close, but I thought when I sell, I kind of hit it 3 or 4
Try and get
times.
the benefits up the front a bit earlier. That's interesting
Front load the
observation.
benefits,
Yeah.
this is great.
Start with the what's in it for them at the beginning, maybe. And again, you know, they're probably going to be more inclined to hear the rest of it if they actually think there's something in it for them. How about at the back here? How did you go?
You know, we kind of went around the.
You did manage to get through the whole lot? That's
For
great.
the most part, I mean, obviously time is limited, but I think that my biggest critique is that I have no idea what's in it for me. Not
So the what's in it for you part, it was made clearer, it made the whole
everything was
motivation.
clear except for what's in it for me.
What's in it for me? Okay, so you get all the steps. If you get that one at the beginning, maybe that would be a very helpful thing to do. Let's swap over now. Okay, let's swap it and let the other person be the delegator and you be the delegatee. And again, you push back a little bit. You don't just accept it so easily. And then we're going to look at what they're doing that's good and what they're going to do that's better. Now, in Dale Carnegie, we never critique people's performances because that's looking in the rearview mirror, going backwards. We want to be going forward. And often we don't know what we're doing that's working. We might be doing something that's quite good from the listener's point of view that we're not even aware of. Oh, that's good. I'll keep doing that. That's a nice piece to remember yourself. And then put it on the front foot. Well, I've got to do this again. How can I make it better? So always on the positive, always going forward. Try it again. Swap roles. Please start. How about here? Who was the mentee this time? Who was being mentored? I think maybe you were. What did he do that was good as the mentor?
He explains the details and the benefits for the job of.
So you're very clear about the benefits to you in doing it. That's very good. How about this pair? What was working? What do you do? Who was the mentor? You were. Okay, what did you do that was good?
He was very clear about the objective.
Objective was very clear for you.
And also the skill sets that presumably I had, how it would fit into his big scheme.
So he connected your ability to match with the project.
Yeah, and
right?
time bound. He told me exactly how long it would take.
So time was there, nice milestones in place. Very, very good. Over here, who was the mentee this time? I think you were. What did he do that was working?
So he very clearly not only explained the reasoning, the why, but he tied it to career growth and to expanded responsibility.
Okay, so the why was very clear, and career growth and development of your job was tied in very tightly. So you felt this is actually helping me.
That's right.
As opposed to I'm doing your job.
That's right.
Which you can very easily feel. Okay, how about Cameron? How about you? Who was the mentee this time? You were. What was working for him? And let's flip it. What could he do? What was good, and what can he do to make it better? Let's hear both.
Well, he got me really excited about the project.
Whoa, there you go. Well done.
Talking about.
How did he do that?
I was the only guy who could do it.
Wow, that's a sales job, right? That's a really sales job.
It was an excellent opportunity. But it wasn't really clear the process, like what was the first thing that was going to happen next, and then how we were going to communicate.
Well, then probably in the time frame we had, that's probably.
That was it.
This is a long conversation. We're truncating it to a few minutes, but that's good. How about in the back? Who was being menteed this time? Who was the mentee? Yeah, okay. What was working?
He gave me a lot of information that I needed for new resources, all of that.
So you felt empowered. You felt I have accountability, and I not only have accountability, I have the authority and the power to actually make this work. Great. What else is good?
Everything was pretty clear, except that he just missed one thing. He failed to mention particular demographic that I was, targeting for this project.
Okay, so that probably would have come out a bit further in the discussion. Okay, very good. How about in here? Who was the mentee? You were, and what did she do well? How could she do it even better?
So she described what was needed in detail. So that was.
So the context or the project itself was very detailed, right? Very clear.
Yes. And then I think probably, and this came up before, is probably what's in it for me came in very last.
Ah,
so
okay.
At the end, she said, you're the only one who could do this, and this is going to help you with your career to present to the CEO. But probably if I had heard it earlier,
motivation would have been, I want to hear a bit more about this thing that's going to help me, as opposed to, where are we going with this, Where is this conversation heading? I'm not sure I like the look of this. You're not quite, so maybe we get that right up the front. Start with what's in it for me as the mentee, and then cascade out the other details. So you think about it, as someone mentioned before, I think maybe it was you, Jim, I'm sure, in a sales process, you begin with what's in it for the buyer. And they're buying your idea that you should be doing this project. Do we have any questions? We're going to wrap it up in a minute and draw the prize. Do we have any questions about delegation, apart from what we've already discussed? That was the first question. Yeah, please.
What about when they completely fail on the objective?
What do you think? Someone's been given a job to do, very clear explanation, what's in it for them, everything's very, very concrete, and yet they don't make it. What will we do? What should we do? Michael, what do you think?
I'm sorry.
When someone doesn't do the project very well, when they fail maybe in the project, we've delegated the project to them, they make a mess of it. As the boss, what should we do?
Yeah, I would be asking a kind of background, what happened, and I will be also asking, what if you can get time back?
Yeah.
What would you have?
How would you do it again? Yes.
And then through such kind of processes, I may be judging, I keep delegated, or if my judgment, initial judgment, the needs and selection of that person wrong, that's my fault. So I will be telling him, and then without any demotivation, I need to delegate to other people.
Yes. So a very good answer, very concrete. So it may be like anything in business. We've got people working for us who don't perform a task. What happened? Did I get the balance right or wrong with this person? Also, it may be useful to check very early in the project, because this has happened many times. You think, logically, we're going there, this is where we need to go. Straight line, right? It's obvious. Except maybe for the person who's doing it isn't as obvious. And they decide to go this way. Now, what you don't want is they keep going that way, working extremely hard, putting in the long hours, pounding it out in the wrong direction, or a variant on the right direction. And then just before the project's due, you discover, oh my God, it's gone over here. I needed it over here. So maybe we need to check, particularly at the beginning, not micromanage it, but just check. Are we directionally okay before it gets too far off course? It's a bit like when we're driving. We're continually adjusting when we're driving for where we want to go. We're making corrections, same thing. Where's the next question? Yes, please.
What if the person sounds so unwilling from the beginning?
Totally, I don't want to be there. So maybe that's a good, well, yes?
Oh, sorry, I like the last point that you made, because there's also the cultural component, which is really interesting in what you just said in the last comment about following up that things are actually happening actually the way you want, because in some countries, like I've worked in different countries, but in Japan, direct communication is not normal. It's more an indirect style.
Yes.
So, say in an Anglo-Saxon environment, you say exactly what you want, people know exactly what's expected of them, whereas in Japan it seems to be more ambiguous.
Yeah, I think the word is bimyo. There's a Japanese word for that called bimyo. Vulgarity, basically.
I haven't been here long enough yet, but I think what you said, that follow-up process is
critical,
really important, because people prefer a more indirect.
They do, and that's why we need to be very clear and to follow up, make sure. And if they really don't want to do it, well, what will we do there? Do we need them to do it? Is this a build a person occasion, or is this a must get it done, delegate the task occasion? I think we have to differentiate which is which. If it's not a build a person occasion, then it makes it clear. You have to then either get resources perhaps to help them, or tell them that this must be done in this time frame and you are accountable, but I'm going to help you. So it's a case of not so much getting them to sign on as to signing them on perhaps. It'll really depend on the situation.
Can we choose another person?
Well, yes, you have the option, you can. Well, if you really have such a lack of motivation, then they're saying something about their own career development. They're saying something about their motivation for the company, aren't they? There might be a hidden reason you don't know too. Yes?
So I actually just learned something about us just now. I asked her when I told her, when I was explaining what was good for you, the project, it didn't quite sit well. I didn't communicate it well enough. So I guess my question is, how do I apply this to my life? In my work, I have a team of people that do all the work. But sometimes, what if the reward is very vague? What if you don't even know? I need this person to work hard. The reward for you is, I don't even know. But I need you to, the reward is there. If you work hard, you'll be noticed or whatever. But I just don't have it for you. I don't have something concrete. What do you do?
But in that case, and we have another section of training around motivational leadership that looks at the motivators for that person. We're all motivated by something, but it's probably different. And it's probably totally different to what the boss's motivations are. As the leader, we build people, we manage process. In doing both, we need to really understand our people and what is driving that person. You see it, people work very strict hours, 9 to 5, they don't seem very passionate, but they've got this immense hobby happening, this interest that's just all-consuming. They've got truckloads of motivation. My son can watch YouTube all night, quite happily do no homework. He doesn't like motivation. He's got motivation, he's just got to get on the right thing. So that's the issue. Where's the motivation? What's the driver? What's the trigger for that person? And that's knowing the person you work with well. And again, I say we have a whole different training on that, because that's something you need to dig out and understand. What is the driver for that person, so you can appeal to it in a way that resonates with them. You may have received one of these little cards when you came in. Our Ultimate Lunch and Learn series workshops, they go for many months. And the number 3 is working well with difficult people. Now, probably none of you have to work with difficult people, but for the 1 or 2 who might have that problem, this will be on June the 13th. It's lunch 12 to 12:30, then from 12:30 to 1:30 we do the workshop. And this is how to be effective with toxic colleagues. Thank you very much for coming today. Glad that you could contribute so much, and hope you enjoyed it, and hope we can see you back for how to get on well with people who are basically pretty difficult.